Hello again and welcome back to my shop. I had a little extra time today and I've been wanting to attempt to make wood trim rings for my ink pens. The idea came to me because every time I make an ink pen, I always have a small section of the pen blank that I cut off and it's just waste. I can never bring myself to throw those things away and I have boxes full of them. This video was pretty much a complete experiment. I had never attempted this before. This was my first shot and I went ahead and filmed it, so you're going to see pretty much what I saw today. Here's one of the pens that I made today. It turned out really nice. I'm real happy with it, and if you'll stick around at the end of the video, I'm going to give this pen away and I'll tell you what you can do to have a chance at winning it. I like to turn ink pens on my lathe, and anybody who turns ink pens knows that what you end up with is a whole bunch of cutoffs. All different types of wood, all different colors. I can't bring myself to throw these cutoffs away, so the challenge is, what can I do with them? One idea I came up with is to replace the trim ring. Now this is just a chrome trim ring off of a standard slimline pen. What I'm going to do is turn a pen out of maple, and then I'm going to use a contrasting wood to make a trim ring. I had two ideas for how to achieve a contrasting wood ring on a pen. The first idea was to go ahead and true up my pen blanks, and then on the cap end to take a parting tool and remove the material all the way down to the brass tube. Once that material was removed, I could then glue a contrasting piece of wood onto the tube and turn it round to match the profile of the pen. The second idea that I had was to take a spare pen tube and to go ahead and glue some contrasting wood pieces onto it. My hope was that I could true these up, and then using my parting tool I could cut them to the width that I wanted my trim ring to be. Once I had the pieces of wood properly sized, my hope was I could go ahead and turn them to the dimension that I wanted and then part them off by cutting the brass tube with a skew to make myself a trim ring. I'm going to give both methods a try and see how it works. I've turned the wood all the way down to the brass tube on the pen top. Now what I want to do is I want to go back and make sure that I'm a little bit concave here on the cap. I want it to kind of curve in a little bit. And the reason why, when I glue an additional piece of wood or my contrasting piece of wood onto this tube, I want to be able to get as tight of a fit as possible between what will become my trim ring and the cap of my pen. One additional thing I'd like to point out, I'm using a standard slimline pen kit, but I didn't want to have a 7mm ring in the middle. I wanted my ring to be larger and more pronounced, so I grabbed a bushing from my Funline kit. It gives me a thicker center to my pen so that I can have a larger, more pronounced ring. To that brass tube, I glued a piece of walnut. And then I took that walnut and I used my barrel trimmer to trim down to the barrel. Now what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to use my sander and sort of take some of the edges off so I don't chunk it off and knock the pieces off. I'll round it down about to the depth of the tube, or to the this particular pen tube, and then I'll go ahead and use my tools to take it down to the proper diameter that I want for my pen. Alright, with the sander I was able to round it down, not really flush with the tube. I went a little bit below the surface, but that's okay because quite a bit is going to get turned off. But I've got a nice fit. You can see there's no crack or no separation along there, so we've got a nice flush fit. So let's get this mounted back up on the mandrel and let's finish turning our pen. All that's left now is to sand this pin down and put a finish on it, and then we can assemble it. To turn these rings, what I think I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to start out on my sander, and I'm going to take these corners off, because with these pieces being so small, as I true them up, I'm afraid any catch at all and they're just going to explode. So let me get them rounded out and we'll be back. I'm back from the sander, and as you can see, I've taken all of the hard edges off. They're not perfectly round, but I think I can, from here, smooth them out and make them nice and round. I don't have the luxury of using bushings to size these. So what I'm going to have to do is use my calipers, and it looks like this bushing that I was using is right at about 11 millimeters. So I'm going to try to watch and keep an eye on these, and when I get down to 11 millimeters, I need to stop. Alright, you can see that I've lost the Cocobolo ring, and I've lost this little ring down here that was kind of a mix of woods. Basically the glue gave way, and that's one of the reasons why I put 4 rings on here, because I wasn't sure how well this would work out. So let's take a quick measurement. I've got a little ways to go. I believe this is walnut and this is bubinga, so let's take them down a little farther. Okay, I'm a little fat on that. I'm going to leave it alone because, truthfully, I'd kind of like the ring to be a little proud of the pin, and plus that walnut's got a lot of grain in it, so I'll be able to kind of sand that and smooth it down. So I'm going to stay with the walnut, or with about 12 millimeters there on the walnut, which is probably about where I'm at. I'm going to turn the bubinga down to about the same size. I'm just using a Bedan tool. I thought it would be easier to keep a uniform width or uniform circumference. Stop and take a measurement. I think I'm still relatively large. You know what? That's not bad. That's about the same as the walnut. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sand these two down and get them trimmed to the right width. The standard chrome ring from a Slimline kit looks like it's about 4, almost 5 millimeters. I'd actually like to make my ring a little thicker than that, so I may try to shoot for anywhere from about 7, 8 millimeters, just to give it a fatter ring. What I want to do now is I'm going to take my parting tool and I'm going to basically flatten this side, take it in where it's a little concave, and then I'm going to measure over about 8 millimeters or so, and I'm going to remove the bubinga from the right hand side. All the way down to the tube. Make it a little concave. Get an idea of about where 8 millimeters is, right about there. All right. All right, let me see if I can make it a little concave. There we go. Let's do the same thing on the piece of walnut. There we go. Come over. Perfect. Now what I'd like to do is come in with my skew and just very lightly touch these up and round the outside edges over. Okay, I need to hit them with some sandpaper. I'm actually kind of glad I left those proud because it gave me an opportunity to round them over and to kind of smooth them out a little bit. That wasn't planned. I'd like to say it was, but luck of the draw. So let me get my sandpaper out. I'm going to sand these, polish them up, and we're going to try them on one of the pins and see how they look. The next step is to separate these custom trim rings from the tube. Both of the pins turned out really nice. You will notice that the one on the left is a bit shorter. That's because we added this particular ring to the existing brass tube versus this one where we built our own tube. Now let's pull that apart. Well, actually, that's what it looks like with the Bubinga ring. And I'll go ahead and pop the walnut ring on there, and that's what it looks like. I actually think I like the walnut ring a little better than the Bubinga ring. I think it's just a little bit too large. One parting comment, if you do this, you'll remember I rounded this ring over on the edges. If you're going to do that, what I would recommend before pulling these tubes off of your mandrel, remove the center bushing and go ahead and round the ends of these, or put a standard 7mm in there so you got something between them, and round them over because there's kind of a stark lip right there. It's not bad, but it would look better if it was rounded over as well. That, or don't round them over. Leave them straight, because I think this one here really looks good. For the month of February, the year 2014, I'm going to take entries to draw a name for a winner of this pin. You do not have to be a resident of the United States. This is open to anyone, anywhere in the world. There's only a couple of small requirements. Number one, you must be a subscriber. And number two, you must comment on this video. And by comment, really all I mean is three simple words: sign me up. The contest will end at 12 a.m. March 1st, 2014. Everyone who's entered and meets the requirements, simply being a subscriber and commenting on the video, will be entered in the drawing. I'll put all the names in a bowl, and I'll shoot a video where I draw the winner, and that person can private message me their address, and I will ship them this pin. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me today. I hope you enjoy watching this video as much as I enjoyed producing it. I learned an awful lot through this process. And if you do like what you see, please do subscribe and please do comment. If you do, you're going to have a chance at winning this pin. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to seeing you again.